All right, so here we are, Andy Thompson, and my foray into the podcast world. I've never done a podcast before, and I'm psyched. Woohoo! I'm psyched about jumping into the deep end of podcasts, and I'm just jumping right in, man. I'm not like walking in the steps, putting water on myself, at the pool. I'm jumping right in, all the way in. I'm diving into the deep end. I don't want to drown, but because I can swim, but I'm jumping into the podcast thing. And my first podcast, legit, just to show that I'm making a commitment to this podcastness. I've got the man, the myth, the legend, my best friend in the world, okay? The one Negro, the one person, you don't want to say that word, the one person that really gets me fully. I mean, my wife gets me, but the other person that gets me, my best friend, the right, proper Dr. E. Christopher Unum Hill, sitting with me at this podcast, my man. And just doing this podcast thing right. So if everybody that's in the podcast world, if you've always wished Pastor Andy did a podcast, hey, share it. Let somebody know, you got to check this podcast out. It wasn't just Pastor Andy. It was Pastor Andy, the Right Reverend Dr. E. Christopher Hill Unum, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only, did a podcast. And so, Chris, welcome to my podcast, man.
Man, this is awesome. Welcome to the world of podcasts. This is cool.
Yeah, man.
I like the lights and the cameras and and I know you're gonna share stuff that's gonna just
not I'm going to share stuff.
You're gonna share stuff. This is gonna blow people's minds.
We're going to share stuff.
But I mean, in the whole course of it.
Right.
Amazing, because they're gonna find out what's really in your head.
Right.
That's gonna be awesome.
Right. Exactly.
Oh man.
Right. And that's the thing about the podcast, is that it's kind of like the content can be shared kind of as you want to, but people do get a chance to get a behind the scenes look, right? That's a part of it, Morgan, right? Is that people are getting a chance to see you kind of, this is Thursday morning. It's after Wednesday night service. We had a great time. Now we're here in the lobby at World Over McCummers.
Come on.
Podcasting, dropping some truth.
Your lobby is bigger than most churches. I just want to say,
Right.
I've been to churches that would come in there, your lobby, and have convention. This is convocation area.
Right, exactly.
In here. I mean, Jesus.
Right.
Jesus, you could get a camel through that door.
No, it's pretty cool.
What are you doing?
The lobby's cool. All right, so Chris, this podcast that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about friendship.
Okay.
We're talking about friendship, and friendship. We could talk about it from different angles, from friendship, real friendship, from, I know a lot of times when you and I are at conventions or at Project Gideon or at MegaFest or whatever, and we're around other preachers, they comment on our friendship. Some of the relationships I've tried to build with other guys, or conversations I've had to talk with other guys, they talk about, yeah, man, like you and Chris.
Wow.
The way that we're friends.
Wow.
And the rarity of friendship. So we can talk about the rarity of men and good friendships. So we can talk about the rarity of preachers and good friendships. We can talk about friendships from that perspective, period.
Right.
But, I thought that's kind of what we could talk about today.
Good. That's good for me.
Yeah.
That's good for me. Friends, how many of us have them? Friends. Before we go any further, let's be friends.
Right.
It's friendships, particularly in the realm of religiosity and preaching. There's, because we are commanded to love everybody, we're not commanded to like everybody.
Right.
So we get to pick who we like and not who we love in general within the body. And then if you have one good friend, for real, you are blessed beyond measure.
Yeah.
And God has blessed me with you these daggone 30 years.
Almost 30 years.
Yeah. So it's and I love to talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think when you're younger you're thinking about having a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Think about how popular you are. You know, my kids watch this show called Malcolm in the Middle.
Okay.
And I was watching Malcolm in the Middle with them the other day. And the thing about Malcolm is he's kind of like a nerd and he doesn't have a lot of friends. And so it's almost like there's this constant battle of his intelligence versus his popularity.
Right.
And how bothered he is by the fact that he's not more popular, even though he's a genius. And he's not popular because he's a genius.
Right.
But so I think when you're younger, you know, popularity and friendship is kind of the most precious thing to you, beyond the things that make you unique. And I think, of course, we're watching the show, and so I'm saying to my kids, it's a foolish thing to want popularity more than the talent of what makes you unique and special.
Right.
And I think as you mature, you begin to realize, okay, if I can have one friend,
Right.
if I just have two friends, if I have, you know, if I can have one or two people that I can trust. And I think the other thing I think that's unique with you and I talking about this today is that I think our Generation Xers, we're a little bit more cynical. So we're not trying to tell everybody our business.
No.
Right.
No. Which is the interesting thing about social media.
Yeah.
Where I have 8 zillion friends on Facebook.
Right.
No, you don't.
Right. Exactly.
You have 8 million voyeurs.
Right.
Who are staring through the window of your life.
Right.
The fake life that you decided to present on
Right.
there.
Right.
But how many of those people would come get you out of jail?
Yeah.
How many of those people will be at your bedside when you're dying?
Yeah.
How many of those people would you say, help me raise my son?
Yeah. Yeah.
Help me raise my daughter. That kind of thing, you know, most people don't have that, and they don't even know, that they should have it.
Yeah.
Because it's not modeled. And you almost have to look at the previous generation. I look at the boomers to see their friendship, to model. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I wanted something in my life, somebody who and I'm in hell, when I'm going through the hell of my life, that I can throw out a lifeline and they won't judge me.
Right.
And they won't destroy me. You know,
right.
Or, you know, friendship is David Jonathan, man. That kind of, that kind of stand up for you in the midst of it. And then when you're dead, I'm going to look for your son to bless your son.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right.
It hardly exists within the church, which is the sad part. That's the sad part, because the biblical model is what we're supposed to have. Jesus says to his disciples, I no longer call you servants, I call you friends. That's to be Jesus's friend?
Yeah.
Really, dog?
Yeah.
I'm your friend now?
Right.
You know,
right.
That's a whole nother level, and I think it's something we have to teach on. We have to model it.
Yeah.
And because I'm watching people die from loneliness surrounded by people.
Yeah, I get that. And I think that the teacher part of me in this kind of podcast is kind of, okay, how do we define friendship? I think you just kind of laid one thing out there at the beginning, which is kind of when someone asks me about our friendship or asks me about how I judge friendship, one of the first things I say is no judgment.
Right.
I mean, if we're really friends, then I feel like I can tell you anything because you're not going to judge me.
Right.
You're going to love me through my difficult place.
Right.
You may help me,
right.
and you may even have a desire for me to do better or be better, but I don't feel judged by you. I feel like I can come to you and lay it out there.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to feel like you're going to kick me in my difficult place.
Please.
You know, because I know you really care about me. I know that you really, because that's the other thing that's hard, is that people have admirers or people they admire. That's very different than someone who really is your friend.
Wow.
You know, if someone admires you, they've got you on a pedestal, and they can be very disappointed with you and upset if you fall.
Right.
And so now that kind of turns into an anger at you for being less than what they expected you to be.
Right.
But if a person is really your friend and really loves you, then even when you're not at your best, you know, they've got your back.
And justifiably so, an admirer can be hurt.
Right.
That you are not who I thought you were, you know.
Right.
But a friend is like, dog, I knew you were messed up anyway.
Right.
I knew when I met you, you were jacked up.
Right.
And you jacked up now, and I loved you then.
Right.
And
right.
I love you. And it's not like there's no confrontation. There's not like you're gonna just let me go off on a path that you think is dangerous because you love me.
Right.
But at the end of it, a friend is who's driving that Bronco, man.
Right.
Who is saying, OJ, I'm taking you to see your mom.
See, I used to use that all the time, until I watched the OJ thing, the most recent OJ stuff. Because see when I watched it, especially the ESPN 30 for 31, right around the middle of episode 2, I paused it. I went in the kitchen, and I was distraught. And LaShawn was like, "Babe, what's wrong?" And I said, "Babe, OJ did it. He killed that.
You didn't think he killed her
all this time, man.
See, you believe all things.
All this time,
you hope
man.
all things. You're like 1 Corinthians chapter 13. The rest of us knew that gentleman killed that girl.
I really. And so I've been saying drive your Bronco when you run from the popo. I've been saying that forever, for the last 20 years. Because,
see, but it's even greater friendship
right,
to know that there's blood underneath your fingernails.
Right.
But I'm gonna take you to see your mama.
Right, exactly.
And then we're gonna call the police.
Right.
It's gonna be low speed because I'm not trying to get killed.
Right. Right.
But I will take you to get a hug from your mama before you go to jail.
Right.
That's friendship.
Yeah, that's friendship.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's Jonathan saying, David, I'm gonna shoot this arrow if he's gonna kill you.
Right.
And you need to run.
Right.
You know, that's that long-term life commitment. And I think the tragedy is we don't see it.
Yeah.
I see it stronger in the streets than I see it in the pews.
Yeah.
And I think we're dying because we're settling for admirers, or we're settling for clicks, or double taps instead of a real relationship that is, hey, I'm with you up or down, in and out, don't matter where. If you're hungry, you eating. If I got something.
Yeah.
And and I think that's what we really need. I think that's how we were created.
Yeah.
And so it's an opportunity for the light of Jesus Christ to show through friendship, as well as the other relationships, marital and children.
Yeah.
How God shows His love through that.
I mean, one of the things I've been talking to my kids about, the millennial generation, is that, especially when we just look at the whole sexual relationship, or the sexual revolution of the 21st century, and just kind of Tinder, and just how people are just hooking up. You know what I'm saying? One of the things that it's made me say is that the enemy is after intimacy.
Okay.
Is what he's after. He's after the idea that you can be intimate with someone. So he's going to take the most intimate act and make it common.
Wow.
And I think that attack against intimacy, of course, we know that the enemy's long-term plan is against intimacy with God. If he can attack intimacy between two people, then he can undermine the idea of intimacy with God.
Okay.
But I think that that's also an attack against, even when it comes to friendship, for you to be truly intimate with a person, there's a vulnerability that you have to have with that person.
Right.
There's a love that you have, so that even their ability to find a true friend, a real friend, the way we define friendship,
Right.
The way we define the intimacy of being real with a person, and really caring about someone, and really having that person's back. Because I think the other thing I think that's interesting about our friendship, Chris, that I think guys find surprising, is how much, with us in the ministry, especially, how much there are things that we bounce off of each other that we're thinking about. So, for example, after today, we're shooting this podcast, and then after this, we're gonna go and have a discussion about my upcoming book tour.
Right.
Because I want your ideas and your feedback on it. And then we're gonna go look at this land that the church owns.
Right.
Because I want your feedback on it. I think people think that they are gonna just get that from a mentor.
Right.
But for you and I, our friendship has also been something that has strengthened even our ministries.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You have gifts and talents that I don't have.
Right.
And then I have gifts and talents, and and that you don't have, and then we have exposures.
Right.
And when we bring that together, even though it is a peer-to-peer relationship, and we both have spiritual fathers, and we both have people who pour into us from another level.
Right.
But then we get to bring that, I can say, man, let me tell you what Bishop told me today.
Right.
And even if it's rebuke or correction, you get to share from that light.
Yeah.
And likewise, I get to do that from your spiritual mentors.
Right.
And I think, and that's necessary. Bible says iron sharpeth iron.
Right.
And so if none of your relationships peer to peer are iron,
right,
you ain't sharp.
Right.
And it's so scared. It's scary to me because I watch people who are excellent at up relationships and excellent at down relationships, but are terrible peer to peer, and they're lonely because you can't really be open with your kids.
Right.
I don't tell my kids when I can't pay the bills.
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, you're fine. I've got that tuition locked.
Right.
Howard's gonna get that check.
Right.
I'm speaking in faith, believing God.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But I'm not gonna put my son in any kind of stress on that. And then with your covering, you want to be open with them, but there's a certain part of you that wants them to be proud of you.
Right.
There's a certain part of you that wants them. You don't want them to know that day to day, and they're usually too daggone busy to hear about that my shoe broke in the airport. I'm not gonna call TD Jakes up and say my shoe broke in the airport, but I'll call you and say, dude, do you know what happened to me?
Right.
This is hysterical.
Right.
That you need that, and I think if we don't let people know that we can share ideas, and God blessed me with a book and a very successful tour, why wouldn't I share that with my friend? Let's sit down. I'll show you everything they taught me, everything I learned. That's the secret sauce of a relationship, is that all that I have is yours, and all that is yours is mine, and our children forever.
Yeah. And it's like, it kind of leads us into something that's interesting, and I'll probably do a podcast on it at some point down the line about kind of parenting, because when you're lacking the right kind of across relationships, then you can start to look for the things that would fulfill you in this cross relationship. You start to look for it from the wrong place. It's kind of that song, Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places.
Right.
Remember Eddie Murphy did the Wookin' Panub, the buckwheat, Wookin' Panub, Wookin' Panub, and all. Well, anyway, you end up looking for love in all the wrong places. So now, instead of you getting that sense of, hey, let me let you know what I went through today from your friend. Yeah. Now you have overly involved your teenager in your life. You've overly involved your teenager in your business. All of a sudden, it's like you've got and then you have these people that are in the middle of identity confusion because they're trying to figure out, okay, are you my mom? Are you my friend? Are you my sister? What exactly are you? Right. If you're my mom, be my mom. And if I'm your son, I'm going to be your son. Right. I don't necessarily know if I'm here to be your friend. And it's like, sometimes I find myself counseling people who I'm like, how is your teenager this in your business? How do they know this much that's going on? And it's because I don't have a healthy enough friendship. So now I'm turning to my teenager to let them in.
You're turning to social media.
Right.
To watch a grown behind man bleed his business on Facebook.
Right.
Because he don't have a dude to say, dude, do you know what she said to me today? He's on there crying and hashtag you broke my heart. Shut up.
Right.
Get a friend. Buy a vowel. Get a diary. What's wrong with you going out like that? But then at first that's my first reaction. Then I'm thinking, oh man, this guy don't have he don't have a friend.
Right.
And that's, I agree. You get into inappropriate boundaries in terms of interpersonal relationships, because we need friendship, and we need true friendship.
Right.
And man, I have two sons. My oldest is 22, my baby boy's 14, and they're my sons.
Right.
They're my sons. They're not that, my 22-year-old is becoming my friend now that he's not in my pocket. and not living in my house. As he matures, we can morph our relationship to a friendship. But I didn't pull him into my private world in thinking too young.
Yeah.
He's not mature enough. And so that's why you need a peer-to-peer relationship with someone who is around your worldview and around your age bracket.
Yeah.
Although I am the older. Hallelujah.
Between the two of us.
Yes, I'm the elder.
You are the older.
Yeah.
Although people may not be able to see, but your goatee is totally. If I let this thing grow, it's Santa Claus down.
No,
here,
man, it's anointing. That's prophetic.
Oh, okay.
No,
I
that is
appreciate
that's
that.
Old Testament
Thanks.
glory.
Right. I think one of the things that sometimes can block, and it's interesting, Chris, when I see this, because sometimes, I'll try. I mean, here, you and I've been friends for 30 years, and so it's like every now and then I'll meet someone that's, especially a preacher, somebody that's kind of in our world, and me and that person may hit it off.
Yeah.
And so now I'm trying to build a relationship with that person, but it can be very challenging. And I think that one of the things that at times can block people from developing true friendships, real relationships, is that there's, for some reason, whatever, and this is something that's just never happened with you and me, but there's like jealousy and envy and I've seen people who think they were friends. My dad had a guy that he called his best friend for years.
Wow.
And at the end of it, you ended up finding out down the line that person wasn't really your friend.
Yeah,
they were trying to compete against you.
That's terrible.
And so I think that the way to how people are able to develop a true friendship and not be competitive with one another.
Right.
I think we should talk about that a little, because it's just something that we've never had, but for some reason it's like people are blocked by that.
It's just, if you're eating, we made friends when we didn't have nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're splitting pancakes at IHOP. Okay.
Right.
And making bread and butter sandwiches in the dorm room.
Right. Right.
So there was nothing to be jealous of.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when you have the benefit of building that friendship from the ground up, nothing. So as you began to climb, and you were pastoring before me, you had thousands of people when I was still on the road, and I'm cheering for you. Right. I'm happy for you, because when you go, I go, and when you succeed, I succeed, and it really is. You have to check yourself internally, and I didn't have you look at all these cameras you got. You look at the cameras moving back and forth and stuff. And I don't have none of these cameras. I don't got no. You got the newer mic, newer. It says I got the older mic.
Don't just say,
you got all this
newer.
Whatever it says newer. Okay, I ain't got none of this. But I get to be on it. I ain't got no podcast. I'm not trying to have no podcast. I'm not trying to follow Christ. Don't follow me. Leave me alone. I got enough troubles. Okay?
Right.
But I have to be able to celebrate what God does in your life. But you have to check yourself.
Yeah.
Everybody has an internal hater.
Yeah.
Everybody has an internal hater, and you have to say to your hater, you are hating.
Right.
And shut up. And let's be happy, because life is too... I would rather celebrate you than lose my friend.
Right.
Right. And I feel bad for preachers who are competitive and anybody who's competitive. Burger King and McDonald's can be across the street. Right. And you'll watch their workers. If I want some French fries and I work at Burger King, I go to McDonald's. And if I want a Whopper, I'll go to Burger King. They don't have that problem, but within family systems, I see it in siblings. That they have this competitive thing driving them, and she got a new car, so we got to get a new car, and they got a house, so we got to get a house. No. If you got a bigger house, can I come over?
Right.
And stay with you while we save up for our new house. We can help each other. We just have to really think it through.
Yeah, and I think the word that says one will chase 1,000, two can put 10,000 to flight. It's like when you find a real friendship, there are going to be times when, sure, you're both strong, and that's awesome. There are going to be times when you're both struggling, and that's good because you have each other.
Right.
But then there may be times when one is stronger and the other one's not as strong, and you slingshot each other. When you and I first started our relationship, we were both at my dad's. We were both in Boston, working for my father, and so it was kind of like I was exposing you. You got on staff through your relationship with me, and I was exposing you to him, because that was at the time he was the man, and we were all trying to learn from him.
Unquestionable.
And so it was like your relationship with me facilitated for you to get to know him and get into full-time ministry, and your ministry gets launched. But then, and I just shared every resource, everything I knew, everything he was teaching me, everything. I just shared it with you.
Right.
And then the next thing you know, Jake's comes and takes you, and then you go work for him.
Right.
Now you're his youth pastor, and now you do that for me. Next thing you know, I'm being exposed to another world that's at another level.
Right.
And it's kind of like when you strengthen one, there have been times when we've saved each other's lives.
Dude.
And it's like, you saved my life. There was a period of time when you saved my life.
Dude.
But you never know, you may save my life for me to save your life at another time.
Hello.
So
another time.
Right, exactly. So it's like,
right.
So it's like I'm saving you, and then saving you. I may be saving myself.
Exactly.
So why would I ever be jealous of you or be envious of you or covetous of you?
Wow.
Because if you win, hey, then, and we're really friends, then I'm going to win. Not only am I winning now, but I've got to do everything I can to help you. I went through, and I've shared it some, I went through just kind of a real mental challenge with anxiety and sleep all the way back in 2008. And you were the first person I called. Like, dude, I can't sleep. What am I gonna do?
Right.
And it's like you connected me with the doctor guy that gave me that took me, and I went to Dallas and met with that guy. And it's like that saved my life at that moment.
Wow.
And it's like, because I was saved, now I get to save you, and you get to save me. You know, and I think that's something that people miss.
Wow.
They don't understand that in a real friendship, the two of you together.
Yeah.
There's
not much we can't be
having each other's back
together.
I mean, there's just nothing. What's really going to stop us?
Wow.
I think the thing that's cool about you and our relationship, Chris, is that my gifting has been a little bit more typically farming, and your gifting is a little bit more typically hunting.
No, you have to explain that.
Okay, so in the ministry, there's hunters and there's farmers.
Right.
And so the farmers are guys who are really strong in a local area, and it just blows up, and it just grows. Hunters are guys that are on the road. They're out there. They're hunting. They're hugely around the world.
Right.
And so your hunting prowess is second to none. I mean, you've preached everywhere: New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. You've preached in places I've never even been to.
Right.
So while you were out there hunting, I was here farming, building. This ministry.
The biggest foyer I've ever seen.
Right. And so it's like, and then there have been times when, like even now with this book, it's like a part of the reason why, Charisma's given me this deal, and
awesome.
We're gonna have this meeting, but it's a little bit more in the hunting arena now.
Right.
And then there were times, when you were pastoring, where we were having a lot of conversations about the farming, because it's two totally different things.
Absolutely.
And I think that's another. You bring gifts to each other.
It's cross pollination.
Yeah.
It's my worldview was broad.
Yeah.
But when I got asked to pastor, you were the first person I called.
Right.
To say small groups.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Discipleship. Discipleship. Because I know how to get you saved, filled with the Holy Ghost, and delivered. But to live with you,
Right.
to live with them every week, the same people, that I really had to get wisdom from someone who is cultivating and understanding the seasons of the church and understanding and it was a blessing
Yeah.
to have that in our friendship, because your knowledge became a cloud that I could download knowledge from,
Right.
that I had not acquired.
Yeah. I think that's important. All right, well, pretty good podcast. We talked for quite a bit.
Oh man,
Had some good discussion.
that was fun.
It
That
was
was
fun.
fun. You should do this again.
We didn't get into anything,
But why is it a podcast?
too controversial.
I'm trying to understand, y'all. Why is it a pod?
I don't. What's
Is there a pod?
I feel like the reason they call it a podcast is just because some guy was like, podcast.
is it? I don't know.
There's no like,
Podcast. I mean,
some guy was in a pod and like,
I know.
Do you think it's connected to the iPod? The iPod. That's the connection. See,
Who
there
has
you go.
an iPod?
See,
Where
a
does
man-
anyone in here have an iPod?
I have an iPod. I have 2 iPods. I have one in my car. I have one that I keep
You still
in my.
have an iPod?
My iPod is what plays the music in my car. You have little things. I mean, you
Do
can play
any
from
of
your
the other
phone.
people have an iPod? You have the original?
Yeah.
Wow.
Listen, my iPod is 160 gigs. You can have all kinds of stuff on that iPod.
Unbelievable.
Every song. iPods are really great. Yeah.
I know, that's what I would
But the
think.
problem is that what happens if your battery dies, But anyway, the
okay.
iPod.
I'm
See,
gonna
you're
get me-
talking, and I mean, here, y'all are around people who remember 8-track tapes.
Yeah,
Remember the 8-track tape?
I do.
Yeah.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
8-track tape, man.
You know,
You stick that thing in there, the
8-track.
whole album has to be good because there's no rewinding. You just have to let it play.
No, man, I had the Walkman.
Oh, the Walkman, of course.
You know.
Yeah. Now you're talking about the cassette.
Yeah, cassette. Yeah, the
The
thing.
little rip.
Yeah.
Did you know that in the cassette tape, right, there was like a little fuzzy, like a little piece of felt, like a
Yeah.
little fuzzy thing on the little metal thing.
Yeah.
If that thing wasn't there, the tape wouldn't play.
Okay.
So I knew how to take a tape apart and replace the fuzzy.
Stretch your hand toward the
I
seat.
knew how to do that because, I mean, that tape, man. I mean, come on, dude. The tape's not working anymore. What happened? That little fuzzy thing wore down or whatever, and I would take another fuzzy thing from another tape,
From another tape.
take it out, unscrew the tape,
See.
put it back together, screw it back in there, and keep on
Keep on.
keeping on.
All right, man.
Yep. So
See, I just throw the thing away.
you just throw it away, but man, oh come on now.
Go get another one.
You gotta.
You
and
know.
Did you ever make a mixtape for anybody?
No, I never really cared that much for anyone to make them a mixtape.
I made mixtapes, man. I made mixtapes
For who?
for girls, like this one's going out to Shawnice, you know what I'm
this
saying?
one's going out to Shawnice.
This one's dedicated to my homie in the gangster lane.
Oh no!
know?
See,
So
no, man. See, that's where I need prayer.
Yeah.
Because I never cared enough.
Never cared enough
I
to
would
make
make
a
one tape and dedicate it to all of y'all out there.
To all the ones I've loved before.
Before.
Right.
God help me, Jesus.
Okay. I trust you enjoyed the podcast today. Me and my man Chris Hill. And it was good. It's
That's
a wrap.
fine.